Welcome to another episode of the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast, your weekly dose of news and advice that comes to your pocket every single Saturday. Holding it down, here we got Mac, Mark, Scott, and Landon. Enjoy today's show. Hey, welcome back to the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Mac, and I'm joined with my boys here, Scotty, Lando, and Mark. We're talking about Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals right now. A lot of buzz around DeAndre Hopkins coming to the team. And the question here that we're going to debate today, can Kyler Murray ascend himself to be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy in 2020? Now, my thinking is that yes, he can. But let's review what he was in 2019. So coming into the league as a rookie, high draft pick, a lot of praise, very accurate quarterback, will do a lot with his legs, but he's undersized. He finished as the quarterback 7 for fantasy purposes. Now, in terms of what he brought to the table, a high completion percentage, 15th in the league at 65%, second in rushing, but was below average in passing DVOA, touchdowns, and interception ratio. So for a rookie player, you would kind of expect that. Now, Hopkins should help Kyler Murray throw downfield a little bit, and he has a hesitancy of not targeting players very deep. Last year ranked 32nd among active quarterbacks in terms of intended air yards, behind notable shorter throwers like Wentz, Brady, Kirk Cousins, and Mitchell Trubisky. Yikes. So I think that Hopkins will help him throw downfield, give him a little bit more of an assured target to throw at. So it'll be interesting to see where Kyler Murray lands in terms of final finish for 2020. I would put my money on a top 5. If his ADP stays where it is as of right now, I would be buy, because I think this guy is undervalued. Scotty, what do you think? You think I'm on the right track here with Kyler, or are you down on Kyler?
I absolutely think you're on the right track. And I like that you mentioned his ADP because right now, Fantasy Football Calculator has him at around 602. And if he actually stays that low, I think that's a bargain. I really liked what I saw out of Murray last season, and he was just a rookie. Now, Russell Wilson is one of my favorite quarterbacks, and every season it just seems like that guy, as his age gets older and older, continues to just have sneaky good fantasy numbers, even if you look up where he landed last season. With Murray, Hopkins is coming to town, potentially the receiving threat in the entire NFL, and I still think in his second season, he's going to be thinking legs first, then his arm. But what a guy like Hopkins does in real world football is that guy's going to stretch the field. I think with another season under his vest of, just knowledge and defensive play reading, I could really see Murray's average scramble really go up this year, because I think the game's going to slow down for him. I think he's going to be able to see how protection's working, and I really think his rushing numbers are actually going to go up. Last year, he was just outside of he was cracking the top 10. And the top 4 of 7 fantasy quarterbacks, they all had scrambling components. They were all over 400 yards. So when you're talking about a 602 quarterback, if you're not willing to spend for Lamar Jackson, and if you're in a dynasty league, he's gone anyway. I just don't see quarterbacks with much more upside than where Murray finds himself right now. So if you're not willing to spend the draft capital on a quarterback, I get it. Lots of people have that strategy. They want to go later in the draft. I understand that approach, but there's no way that Murray is falling to people this season. Hopkins is there, everyone's hyped, and I think justifiably so, because he's just as much a threat with his leg as his arm. I think in his second year, his pass accuracy and just his overall recognition of the offense is going to be better. So I could not be higher on Murray right now, and I'm going after him come draft day. Landon, what do you think?
Scotty, I get the upside. I understand where the ceiling could be for a guy like Kyler Murray, but that's not going to win our listeners fantasy championships. In recent years, Last year was Lamar Jackson. He was going in the back of the 8th round. Even Kyler himself was going in the 10th round, back of the 10th. The year before that was Patrick Mahomes at the 10:08. This year, the guys that won you championships was Ryan Tannehill. Right now, he's going in current drafts in the 14th round. So that's going to be my strategy. Even Drew Brees, a fantasy darling for years, and just got Emmanuel Sanders on the team, is going in the 11th round. I am not willing to take Kyler Murray in any drafts. And yes, I do think he has potential with DeAndre Hopkins, but now NFL coaches have a year of film on him. I think he's also has the potential to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, to force it downfield, which could result in sacks, turnovers, bad things. He was not great in the red zone last year, and I don't know if an addition of DeAndre Hopkins is going to do that. In several years, over 40 quarterbacks have finished in the top 12. I am not willing to handcuff myself and my fantasy team when taking a guy like Kyler Murray so early to have to play him all year round. Because you have to. If you're going to reach for him, you're going to start him week in, week out, good matchup or bad, and that's not how you win fantasy championships. Marky, am I crazy? What do you think?
Well, Lando, I am kind of in the same boat as you, where I am a late round quarterback type of guy when it comes to drafting a fantasy team. So Kyler Murray, for me, he's looking a little too high in the rankings for me to grab him early on among some of the other high-ranked quarterbacks. So if I were to look at the league right now, number 1 for me, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. I think those are pretty much unequivocal consensus throughout any fantasy player. As for the number 3, some people could say Kyler Murray, but I still don't think he has a higher ADP or a higher rank than like a Russell Wilson or even a Dak Prescott. I think there's a lot of work that the Arizona offense would have to do in order to project Kyler at that spot. So just taking a look at the 2019 season, the Cards were 45% in red zone scoring through the entire season, which is the 4th lowest in the entire league. Now, granted, if you take a look at the last 3 games, they boosted the percentage up to 72%. And we saw some great performances from both Kyler and a very high level of Kenyon Drake football, which is something that we might come to expect next year. Kenyon Drake signed a 1-year contract. He looked great for them in a few outings last season. And I mean really great if you had him on your fantasy team. You know, some high 30-point games. But just looking at his efficiency as both a rusher and a passer, that definitely will open up the lane for some play action and for some run-pass option for Kyler. And I know he's already a gunslinger. He's going to let that arm go a lot of times in every game. And I think Kenyon Drake is definitely a boost for this offense. So on that note, for me, Kyler is still a little bit of a wild card just because he is a scrambler. But that scrambler, no matter how many weapons you have around you, it gets him into trouble a little bit. So actually last year, one stat is that no quarterback was charged as at fault for as many sacks as Kyler Murray was. And that was 23 sacks that were basically brought upon himself by his own kind of radical decision-making when scrambling. So I thought that was interesting. And that's kind of, maybe a little bit of a telling point of that air raid offense. I think it's still a little bit unpolished in Arizona. Not saying I dislike it, but I'm not saying that it would ever put Kyler above Russell Wilson for like that top 3 spot. Anyone else want to touch on any points on?
Yeah,
Kyler
I mean,
here?
I'll give the closing thoughts here. Kyler Murray, I actually looked this up. His average time to throw was 2.72 seconds, which is about average for the league in terms of active quarterbacks. So to say he holds onto the ball a little bit too long, I think he's been a fairly decent pocket passer given the criticism that he got coming out of college. Everyone said that, he wouldn't be able to use his legs at the next level. He's too small. He won't be able to throw over the line. I think what you saw from him, 65% completion percentage, was that he showed that he could be a capable pocket passer. I do think that he needs a little bit of help from his line. But it'll be interesting to see how the next year goes. I mean, he's become a little bit more accustomed to the NFL game now, maybe understands it a little bit better. I do like the little nugget here that you gave, Mark. He's going to have to do a better job of getting the ball out of his hands in those times of uncertainty or trouble instead of taking that sack. Kyler Murray, for me, closing thoughts, if he were to, we go to September, you're doing your draft, he's at the 602 spot, 6th round, second pick. I think I'm going to take Kyler Murray there just because of the upside. And like Scott said, 4 of the top 7 quarterbacks in fantasy were mobile. They ran for over 400 yards. We know the consistency, the high floor that a mobile quarterback can give you as a fantasy asset. And I think that is so overlooked for a lot of people. So you bring in DeAndre Hopkins. We haven't even seen Andy Isabella or Akeem Butler yet get on the field. You got Larry sticking around, Hopkins coming to town, the ascension of Kenyon Drake. This offense could do really, really solid things with Cliff Kingsbury. So I'm going to say that Kyler outperforms his draft stock, and I'd be all in on him at the 602. So thanks so much for hanging with us today, guys. Leave us a comment in the comment section below. Hit the card right here. Where would you take Kyler Murray in a 2020 redraft as of right now? We're talking April of 2020. Let us know. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be continuing to bring you videos throughout the off season. So hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.